The document on the wiki for today's date is cognitive dissonance. The very back page has this picture of the Solomon-Asch experiment and these words: conformity, compliance, normative, social influence, and informational. These are the words we went over today. You could write it on a piece of paper and then you can get the handout when you come to school, just so that you're able to make it up without the handout. It's totally fine. You'll be fine. All right, so on this picture we took some notes because this picture represents the Solomon-Asch study. Now, Asch's name is not spelled exactly like it sounds, but there is a C in it. Solomon-Asch. Now, his experiment was about conformity, which we're going to define. And what you need to know so far on this picture is that in his experiment, he had one subject in the group, and then he had paid actors or confederates that are represented by these white circles. What he was hoping to test was, would the subject go along with the group if they were paid to give the wrong answers on certain questions? So what were the questions he asked? He had 18 cards with lines on them, and he would ask them, hey, what line, A, B, or C, matches X? Now, what would you say if you were looking at this card? What line matches X? That's right. If you said B, you're right. That matches X. But Asch had the confederates or actors paid to give the wrong answer, just to see what the subject would do. Now, this is an example of conformity. Conformity is when you follow a group norm or follow the group or change your behaviors or beliefs to go along or follow a group. That's the key words here in conformity. You follow a group. Whereas compliance, which we've been talking about the past few days with Stanley Milgram and the shock experiment, it's almost like another word for obedience. We've also been talking about compliance when it comes to persuasive techniques, like do people, are they likely to do things if you put your foot in the door or door in the face when making certain requests? So in compliance, you are likely to give into or agree to a request or demand. In other words, you're likely to obey an order or agree to an order, whereas the other one you're more likely to follow a group. In compliance, I'm more likely to do what my mom says or a parent or teacher or a friend. I give into or agree to a request or demand. Whereas in the other one, I just follow a group. Now, we'll get to these other words momentarily after we talk a little bit more about the Asch experiment. So in the Asch experiment, he was looking to see, would subjects conform or match the group norms, become similar to the group? Would the one person follow what the rest of the group was saying? Here's a great video that shows this experiment in action. If it will play, it will be great.
The Asch experiment is one of psychology's oldest and most popular pieces of research. A volunteer is told that he's taking part in a visual perception test. What he doesn't know is that the other participants are actors, and he's the only person taking part in the real test, which is actually about group conformity.
Please begin. The experiment you will be taking part in today involves the perception of line length. Your task will be simply to look at the line here on the left and indicate which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. So, for example, if you
The actors have been told to match the wrong lines. The volunteer will be monitored to see if he gives the correct answer or if he goes along with the opinion of the group and gives the wrong answer. In the first test, the correct answer is 2.
1. 1. 1.
2. 1. Once again, the correct answer is 2.
3. 3. 3.
3. 3.
The Asch experiment has been repeated many times, and the results have been supported again and again. We will conform to the group. Again, we're very social creatures. We're very much aware of what the people around us think. We want to be liked. We don't want to be seen to rock the boat, so we will go along with the group, even if we don't believe what people are saying.
So there's a couple of reasons why that psychologist was just talking about why we go along with the group, and these are where these two other words come in: normative social influence and informational social influence. Again, you could just, if you're writing on a piece of paper, you could just make a T-chart to describe the differences between these two words. In normative social influence, we follow norms or we conform because we seek acceptance or approval. So in this particular case, in normative social influence, I follow the group because I believe they're going to accept me or like me more. In general, as human beings, we don't like getting the stink eye from other people. We don't like disapproval from others. Even people we don't know, strangers. If somebody gives you a dirty look, you right away think, ooh, what'd I do wrong? What's hanging off my face? We, as human beings, we like acceptance. We like approval. Informational social influence, we follow norms or conform because we believe that other people must have the right information. That's why it's called informational. Or they have the accurate opinions, they have the correct views, they have the correct facts. We look to others as if they have the right answers. So some of Asch's subjects, they followed the group because either A, they wanted to be accepted by the group. They didn't want to get disapproval and the stink eye. Or B, they just thought, maybe these other people know more than I know, and they can see the lines better than I can see. I'm going to show the next video, which actually shows some of Asch's subjects and gives some of these examples of why they followed the group.
Here I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the fifth person with the white T-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3.
But on the third trial, something happens.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence. Asch found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials.
Another way to write the results of Asch's experiment, if you want to write this sort of near this part of the notes, is that the subjects, that lone person among the group, conformed or went along with the group. 75% of subjects went along with the group at least one time. You can write the results like that. 75% of subjects went along with the group at least one time.
But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1. 1. They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me. 1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1. 1. 1. 2.
Now, you see how everybody gave this guy a dirty look? If he then conforms because he doesn't want people to not like him, which type of influence would that be? If you said normative, you're right. Now, let's go back to this guy. If he changes his answer because he thinks, well, these other guys must be right, which kind of influence is it? If you said informational, that's right. Take a look again.
1. This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
When you think other people have the right information or facts, that's informational social influence.
1. 1. 1. 2. 1.
But if you go along with the group because you want people to like you and you want to avoid disapproval, that's normative. Now, what else did Asch do? He actually did some variations of the activity where he had one of the actors go along with the subject in their right answer, where everybody else gave the wrong answer. In those cases, conformity was less. And then he also told the subject sometimes in other trials, hey, you came late to the experiment. Would you please put your answers in private? That seemed to also reduce conformity. Another interesting thing that Asch tried was he changed the number of people in the group. If the group was too big, the subjects were not as likely to conform. He found that 6 to 7 people was a good size. If the group was too small, subjects were also less to conform. So 3 to 4 weren't good. 6 to 7 was great, but having 20 people became ridiculous. Subjects weren't as likely to go along with the group if it was too large. All right, what else should you do after watching this video? Watch at least a couple of other videos in the email and email back an example of either normative or informational social influence, and also play the Kahoot. It's really helpful in telling some of these words apart.